All right. Well, hi, welcome back. This is Nate Bloom, Executive Director of the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board and the Nebraska Sorghum Producers Association, with another segment of our virtual content, which replaces our Sorghum Symposium for 2021, canceled in person due to COVID. But we have a real treat for you today. We're here with Mr. Mike Baker. He is the board president of the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board and a little bit of a legend when it comes to marketing his grain. And Mike, I was hoping we could have a great conversation with you about how you market your grain and maybe some tips and advice for new growers or growers who are looking to market their grain differently moving forward. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your operation.
Yep, not a problem. I'd say far from a legend anyway. I'm a long ways away from retired and being super profitable for a long time, but I would say I'll start off talking about myself a little bit here. I am a fifth generation farmer. My family homesteaded here in Nebraska, in southwest Nebraska in 1895, I believe. And so it just kind of continued lineage, and hopefully there's some more generations to go on and follow me a little bit here. But I've been involved with grain sorghum ever since I pretty much graduated college, and just kind of, I wouldn't say piddled around a little bit about a few neighbors that did it. So of course I started trying it, and it worked out great in my operation, and it's kind of taken off from there. That's what I've done. So
awesome, that's great. Well, and we're really happy. The Nebraska Sorghum Producers Association are really happy every year that with the hybrid plots that you're able to host down there by Trenton, really well attended. You're clearly respected in the community, and we hope that continues as well. So
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you're marketing your grain, what your process looks like, and kind of just maybe just walk us through how it started and how it's evolved over time.
Well, our family, my grandfather, and my father had the insight in 1979 to put up a grain storage facility, start that, and it was pretty innovative at the time. And of course, back then you didn't have 1,000 bushel semis rolling in and out, so it's been a lot of modifications throughout the years, in the last 40 years, and we have about 200,000 bushel storage on farm now. That's what we have in various bins, and that gives me kind of the opportunity, I guess you would say, to segregate grain, keep things separate. Obviously, hold for later markets so you don't have to haul to the elevator time of harvest. It gives you the opportunity to sit on stuff a little bit. And also you can always contract. There's people always willing to contract grain early in the year, and they don't want to take delivery till, let's say, March or April, even later on. And you can always capture a little extra income with that. And it's been very good.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about those contracts. How do you get those contracts, and what does that look like when you first started versus where you're at now?
Well, first starting, we had my grandfather's operation, my father's operation, and myself, so I didn't have a lot of grain storage at my disposal. So a lot of my stuff is the elevator. Kind of started back to the old, I wouldn't say the old-fashioned way, quid pro quo anyway, or whatever. You had hauling the elevator, and you kind of want to have a price, and you had to pay storage to the elevator. But overall, I built a little more storage. I bought some storage out my grandfather's operation when he decided to retire. And
the storage aside, when you first started going out and finding end users and getting contracts, where did you what kind of tools did you use? What did that look like?
A lot of the stuff I even brokered on farm when I first got started would be I'd go to our local co-op. They would contract off the farm for bushels for me to broker it to birdseed plants, various birdseed plants that were, I wouldn't say they're close, but within trucking range. And I've trucked some for myself there and broker with them. And I'd say I kind of got involved a little bit in the specialty side of things a little bit. And, honestly, to get my start on that, I went through the Sorghum Checkoff website. They have a list of end users. And I wouldn't say you start throwing darts and see what sticks to the wall. I kind of go through and just start making phone calls, whether anybody calls you back or not, just trying to make connections, and kind of got started there and got my name out a little bit to a few people. And it's kind of a business of who you know and how involved you are, and it passes the word on and goes from there.
But I think what you're telling us, it sounds like there's no substitute for those phone calls and introductions and networking. And by the way, we do have a link to that directory at the United Sorghum Checkoff website on this page alongside this video. So it's something definitely to check out. We at the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board have also started a database of brokers who've been contacting us in the last several months looking for grain in going into 2021. And you're welcome to give us a call or an email at Nebraska Sorghum, or sorry, sorghum.board@nebraska.gov. And we'll be happy to connect you with that list as well.
To be honest, I've spent hundreds of hours on the phone just making phone calls. I actually have my list of people I've contacted, and that even if I've never sold them grain, I call them back once a year just to talk to them to keep that open line of communication going. So it goes a long ways.
It's definitely about relationship. When you say hundreds of hours on the phone and all the phone calls and contacts you've had to make, is that something when you're talking with your peers out there near Trenton or other folks that are maybe looking to get started in that kind of a brokerage model, is that daunting to them? Do you have any advice for somebody who's going to pick up that phone for the first time and try to follow in your footsteps?
I don't think it's real daunting. I guess not from my perspective, but I also have the same perspective. It's okay to be told no, or we're not interested right now. And it's just so important to keep that open line of communication with anybody and everybody. And I've always passed on people that were, I'd say, brokers that were interested in stored grain that I did not have myself, and talk to neighbors I know have grain stored, try to help them out a little bit or see if I can put them in line. So I don't think it's really daunting to just make a phone call.
Good. Walk us through what one of those phone calls would be like, just for somebody who's never done this before, kind of give them an idea of how that phone call is going to go when they first pick up that phone and try giving them a call.
Of course, you try to find the proper contact, the first person you need to talk to, or it might be 2 or 3 people down the line in that group. But usually want to talk a little bit about you, and talk about you, or you talk about yourself, I guess, to them anyway, and explain your operation, what you do. And of course, they're gonna be interested in how many bushels, do you have stuff segregated, delivery, whether you have a scale on farm or not. It's more just relationship building to get everybody comfortable with each other and know that they can trust you and you can trust them.
Have you ever had anybody be outright rude to you on the phone when you call to make these contacts?
No, they might not answer the phone, which I understand that, and some brokers are that way. If you get people I've had good relationships or over the years, and they won't answer a phone, that's understanding that they're not needing anything right now. They may not answer their phone, but it's always know when everybody's chasing the same bushels of grain. So I like to say, you'll get 3 or 4 brokers call you in one day, and I don't know for a fact, but I'd say they're probably all chasing the same contract, just depending on where you go with it.
Right. Well, and I asked that intentionally, being somebody who's made cold phone calls. That's always the first concern, the human concern that comes up is, well, what if, not only do they say no, but they're going to be rude. I'm just wanting something from them. But the reason I asked you that is because I think that's really not the case. Most people are very kind and want to make sure that everybody can find a win, and which sounds in your experience.
And to go kind of the same route, I'm not afraid to throw darts with emails either to people, and new connections you haven't had. It's almost easier to explain yourself, and you can look at it, type it out, think about who you are, and say, if you're ever interested, or if you are interested, please give me a phone call or return the email. And sometimes they reply back, sometimes they don't, and it's understandable either way. Nice.
Now, I don't want to get too far into the weeds or specifics of your operation, because I totally respect your privacy and everything, but can you give us some kind of a scale or idea of, from a profitability standpoint, how the way you do marketing versus just going to the co-op, what difference has that made in your operation?
Just talking about the standard, it's a commercial 2 grain anyway, the go to the elevator, but the last 5-6 years, of course, 2014 was a fluke. I wouldn't say a fluke, a very pleasant surprise. This year has been, I always thought 2014 would never be repeated, and this year's blew 2014 out of the water. But storage, even around Southwest Nebraska, we have a couple large grain merchandisers, shuttle loadouts. So inevitably, a store grain, yes, it's not good to have it unpriced sitting in the bin. But inevitably, if I have, we'll say 10,000 bushels and they're short on a train, they'll be willing to negotiate prices and just to fill a train out versus have a short train. Mm-hmm. Works really well. Just on the normal commercial grain.
Good. So from a profitability standpoint, this makes a lot of sense. And would you encourage other growers to be thinking about how they market their grain differently?
Well, at this marketing grain right now is not real hard. We're seeing grain new crop prices right now about $5.25 a bushel. Makes it pretty easy. So there's the easy answer for 2021. That this growing year anyway. It's not too hard, but it's just you got to have storage, in my opinion. Or that's the way I look at it anyway. I mean, you can spread out the risk hedging, forward contracting stuff to the elevator, but it's a lot simpler to have the grain on hand in the bin. It gives you a lot more leverage dealing with elevators, brokers, end users of all sorts.
Right. Allows you to control some of the variable a little bit.
Yes.
That's good. Well, great, Mike. I hate to cut a conversation short if you've got more you'd like to add, but I'd ask you if there's anything we haven't talked about. We do kind of like to keep these videos fairly short and sweet so that folks who are busy can watch them and then move on to the next thing. But is there anything that we're missing that you'd like to share?
The only thing I might add that I wouldn't say I'm at where I'm at because of it, but sure this helped is just being involved in what I've done in the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board and the national level. I've got to meet so many people, and the business of, we're going to say, specializing in something, you have to make relationships. It's so important, just communication. Mm-hmm. Honestly, sell yourself. If you're, I consider myself a very, I'm going to say, OC person, I guess you could say. I just, when people see that and they know that I'm going to do a good job and I specialize in what I do and I sell myself, and it's just communication with others and being polite and respectful goes a long ways.
Right. And making those connections, even especially when the grain marketing is easy in a good year. That way you've got those connections when the year isn't so good, and be nice to already have those in your back pocket. So I think a wise person once said the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, but today's not bad either. I would really encourage producers who are thinking about marketing their grain a little bit differently, maybe looking at some on-farm storage so they can leverage those things like you have, to not wait to have those conversations, to pick up the phone now and find those potential partners in the future.
Very, very true.
Great. Well, Mike, again, I'm so pleased to have you on as the board president. I came on 2 years ago, and at that time I didn't know what I didn't know. And you've been not only a great board member, a great board president, but also a good mentor for me as I came up to speed to help the grain sorghum industry here in Nebraska. And so thank you for that. Personally, thank you for your friendship. And again, we'll have links to resources alongside this video on our website at nebraskasorghum.org. But you're always welcome to give us a call or an email with additional questions. Anything we can do to help you, that's what we're here for. So again, Mike, thanks a lot for your time today.
Yep, thank you very much, Nate. I sure appreciate the help out all I can.